It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Bringing Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Tufts assistant men's ice hockey coach, Mikhall Bryan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college men's ice hockey?
Yeah, I think when I finished playing, I just wasn't really ready to be done involved in the game somehow. I didn't obviously wasn't going to be playing in the NHL or anything like that from Division 3, so I just wanted to stay involved somehow, and coaching seemed like a path that could allow me to do that and still be involved on a daily basis. I didn't really know how much I would enjoy coaching at first, just because I had obviously never done it, but once I started, I found that I enjoyed it, and now it's been 4 years going on 5.
What was that like getting to play collegiate ice hockey for Suffolk?
It was a lot of fun. Like my goal had always been to play college hockey at either D1 or D3 level. So playing at the D3 level is super competitive, and at Suffolk it was a lot of fun. Like we our whole school is right in downtown Boston, so it was a lot of fun to go there, a lot of fun to play there. Overall, like it was a really enjoyable experience for me.
How was that experience like getting to put on that collegiate uniform for the first time?
It's cool. Like I said, like thinking about your whole life, kind of wanting to play in college. Like I'd grown up in Ohio and North Carolina, and didn't know a ton about the levels or the differences between Division 1 and Division 3. So just getting to play for the first time, I remember my freshman year, like I was pretty jacked just to get to be in the lineup and play your first game. So it was awesome.
Of course, how was that transition like? As you said, you were from North Carolina, then you moved to Ohio, where hockey is very heavily popular. What was that like?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, going from North Carolina, hockey is obviously, not a huge deal down there. It's a lot of baseball, basketball, football. So it was nice. Even in Ohio, I mean, it's gotten bigger now in Ohio, but when I was living there 10 to 15 years ago, it was still a little bit smaller, I would say, and not as much on the national stage as it is now. But going from North Carolina to Ohio was nice, just like the level is better, but also just the opportunity to skate. Like there's more rinks there. There's more coaches there that can give you, I guess, more individual attention or have more experience. So, for me, like being in high school in North Carolina, we were driving 2 hours usually for practices twice a week, from Winston-Salem to Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's a lot. My mom was doing it most of the time, my dad occasionally. So that was a lot on our family. So going to Ohio, I lived with my grandparents, and now it was just a 20-minute drive to the rink, and I could drive myself. So it was nice as far as like ease of life.
What were some of your collegiate accomplishments playing?
Probably my most proud accomplishment is just being a captain. I had only been a captain once in my life before, and it was when I was a lot younger, like 12 or 13, which I don't really think counts that much. So getting to be a captain in college was a really cool honor for me, and um, it's something that I'm still proud of today, just being able to do that, and um, being, I guess, like looked up to by the guys that you played with, and the younger guys in the team, and trying to set a good example. So that's something for me, like obviously, winning a championship would have been nice. We never did, but outside of that, I think being able to lead was a really cool honor for me.
Coming out of college, what was that like getting into professional ice hockey and playing with the ever Everhart Thunderbirds.
Yeah, it was cool. Like that was another experience that I'm glad I was able to go through. It was different than college, obviously. Like guys are older and it's a different style of game. But for me, like I really wanted to experience that at some point. Um, like I said earlier, I didn't think I had necessarily a career in pro hockey, certainly not at a high level. So for me to be able to play in that league at the at the end of my senior year, it was a lot of fun, and it was still, I say, not that high of a level. It's not the NHL or the AHL, but it is hard to play. And there's a lot of really good players, Division 1 and Division 3 college players that are in that league. So it was a really cool experience for me to get to do that right after my senior year ended.
What was that like getting into college coaching right after obviously playing professionally and playing collegiately?
Yeah, the first year, when I was coaching juniors after college, like it was hard, not because um it was hard because I had never done it before. So I was trying to figure out like what is a and what is an assistant coach's role, and what am I supposed to be doing during practice, during games. Like I kind of knew what I was doing during games just because I knew I had to run the forwards. But in practice, like, how do I approach something, or what should I be looking for? That was a big adjustment. Because I was 25 and you don't have any experience being on the other side of it now. So I tried to learn as much as I could on the fly. And I worked with a head coach who had been an assistant coach for a long time, and a head coach as well. So he was very helpful for me as far as like giving me advice and kind of pointing me in the right direction. But it was definitely probably my biggest adjustment in my coaching career so far.
What was that feeling like when you got your first collegiate coaching job and going to Curry College to become assistant coach?
Yeah, I was really excited for that as well. Curry was a school that I had played against for 3 out of my 4 years in college. So getting to coach there and having seen them have success when I was in college, and the players they had there at the time, it was exciting for me. I didn't know the head coach at all prior to the interview process, but getting to know him, he was really intent on trying to help me grow and learn and develop so that I could eventually move on and be a head coach one day or an assistant at another level, whatever, I kind of wanted. But I was really excited because, like I said, they were a team that I had played against a lot, had a lot of familiarity with, and some of my friends had gone there and had nothing but good things to say.
What was that experience like leaving there to become a regional scout for the Green Bay Gamblers?
Yeah, scouting now with Green Bay has been another good experience for me. Like I've been able to learn a lot. It's only been one year that I've been doing this now, but it's more of I'm not ever there on a day-to-day basis. So it's more I'm doing it from out here, watching players and then talking with the different assistant general manager and coaches about different players on Zoom calls and stuff like that. But that's been a good experience for me because I can kind of round out, like, obviously you're coaching on a daily basis, and scouting is a little different as far as what you're looking for and what your responsibilities are. So being able to do that has to me has been a good experience to like round out kind of like what I've been doing with coaching and now with scouting.
Of course, how has that been like balancing being our coach for Tufts and also being a regional scout for the Green Bay team?
Yeah, actually it's worked out really well because a lot of the players that you're looking at for Green Bay are playing in the same leagues or teams as the players that we're looking at for Tufts. So when we go to watch a game, like a prep school game out here, in Massachusetts or Connecticut, wherever, um, at Tufts, we're looking at the seniors usually, and maybe some juniors for 2 years from now. So we're looking at the older kids. And then when you're watching for Green Bay, you're looking at the freshmen and the sophomores. that are a lot younger. Some of the juniors and seniors too, but you're usually looking at the younger kids to see, do we think that they could play at the USHL level in 2 to 3 years or 1 to 3 years. So you're actually watching the same game, just different ends of the spectrum, young versus old. And then that's kind of still true when we go to junior games, whether it's the North American League or the NCDC. Um, we're generally looking at the younger guys for Green Bay and then some of the older ones for Tufts. So it's actually worked out really nice as far as a balance with time and kind of like killing two birds with one stone.
What was that feeling like coming to Tufts to become the assistant coach and joining the coaching staff of Coach Norton?
Yeah, again, really excited. Tufts is a school that some of my friends had gone to when I was playing juniors and playing prep school, and I had heard a lot of good things about the team and the program. And I had known their former assistant a little bit, so I was excited. It's obviously a really good school, and the hockey team is good as well. So it was something that I was excited about, and just still am, honestly. So it was all good.
Once you got on campus as a assistant coach for Tufts, what was that feeling like getting used to the campus and even getting used to practices and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have what I think is a beautiful campus. I was shocked the first time I saw it. I had driven around Tufts. I used to live in Somerville, my first year out of college, but I'd never really seen the actual campus. And it's obviously only 2 miles outside of Boston, but it has all the normal qualities of a college campus with the quads and the campus center, athletic center. So the first time I saw it, I was honestly shocked at how nice it was. Our athletic center that we have for all the coaches, like that's where I am right now. Our offices are on the fourth floor, and then there's some on the third floor as well. And then the second and first floors are all new. There's a gym, a varsity weight room, the basketball court, the indoor track and field. There's a new locker room for students and staff down there now as well. Pool, sauna, like you have really everything. So this building and facility that we're in is top notch. It's actually unreal.
As a coach, what has it been like, obviously being in the Boston area where hockey is very present in the Boston area?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, there's I don't know, I guess Minnesota. I've never been to Minnesota, or I've been to Minnesota but never lived out there. I'd imagine Minnesota is similar, but here you have obviously the NHL, AHL, ECHL. I mean, you have all different levels of pro in this area. You have Division 1 college, Division 3 college, a ton of different junior leagues, a ton of different youth hockey as far as prep school, high school. Um, I mean, there's something going on every weekend. So it can be a lot at times during our season when you're trying to make sure that, your team, you have games and practices, and it's a lot to keep up with. But in the off season, you're never bored because there's camps going on all the time. There's tournaments going on every weekend. So I really think, again, Minnesota is probably a similar comparison, but I think it's one of the best places to live as far as a player or coach because there's just so much opportunity.
What does a typical game day look like for you as an assistant coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if we're playing at home, we have ice in the early afternoon around, like, our home games on Friday nights are at 7 p.m. So on Friday we'll have a skate for the guys who aren't playing that night. They'll skate around 1 and I'll run that skate. So I go to the rink around noon, run that skate from 1 to 2, and then I usually head back home, shower, eat, and then get dressed. I come to the rink around like 4:45, 5 o'clock, depending on game time. Like I said, usually 7 o'clock. So that would be Friday. Then Saturday, we meet in the morning as coaches around 9. We do a team film session around 11. And then after that, we head back again, shower, change, and you go to the rink for roughly 2 o'clock for a 4 o'clock game. Sometimes it's like 12:31 for a 3 o'clock game, depends on when we're playing. And then so that's a home weekend. Away is a little different. Like, we're still playing at 7 o'clock on Friday, but now we're, depending on where we're going, we're usually leaving somewhere between 12 and 2, depending on how far the trip is. And in scenarios like that, you're just coming to campus in the morning. Whenever the bus leaves, 12 or 1, you're jumping on the bus. We go to the rink, we pack up all our stuff, and then we usually head out of Boston, like I said, around 1, 2 at the latest. The farthest road trip is about 3 hours. The closest is around an hour and a half. So depending on how far that trip is, usually get into whatever school we're going to around 4:35, game at 7. Um, and then at night, after the game, you're usually driving towards the next school. So if you play Williams on a Friday night, then you go to Middlebury Saturday, you head towards Middlebury, get to the hotel hopefully before midnight, depending on how far that is. And then next morning, similar setup. Like we usually have a optional team breakfast, but let guys sleep in if they prefer to do that. And then usually like a team brunch meal with film around 11:30, and then leave around noon and get to the rink for 12:30 to 1 for, again, usually what's a 3 o'clock game away. So for me, it's, my preparation is a little bit easier than it was as a player. Like I'm not physically getting prepared like I was. It's more mentally, like making sure our film is ready to go, making sure that we touch on the points we want to from either the previous night or that opponent we're playing Saturday, and then just making sure like the guys have enough food, they have drinks, Gatorades, waters, all that kind of stuff, so that we're not getting to game time and guys are hungry or thirsty or don't have the stuff that they need. So kind of like a more of an organizer in that role.
Of course, as assistant coach, what has that been like? Obviously, keeping the momentum of your team when, let's say, you might be on the road on a Friday, but then you're also playing a different team that same weekend on a Saturday.
Yeah, that can be hard. That can be really hard. Some conferences, like when I was at Suffolk and even when I was at Curry, you usually play the same team back to back, which is also hard because if you lose Friday, then they have the momentum. And if you win Friday, it's also hard to beat the same team the very next day. So here, what's different is you're always playing a different team. And that's hard because some teams that you play are really different. Like one team might do something completely different from who you play the next day on Saturday. So that's where, like, what I was kind of just saying, like you're organizing and preparing, that's where that's super important. Like there was one team, I don't want to name names of who it was, but there's one team that we played on a Friday away this year, and they play a certain way, and then the team that we play Saturday plays an entirely different way. And so Friday night after we got to the hotel, we probably spent close to 2 hours till like 1 to 1:30 in the morning talking about what we wanted to do for that Saturday game and how could we prepare our guys. And then come Saturday, like we have, like I said, the team meal. We come back to the hotel, we watch that film on who we're playing. And to our guys' credit, like they really went out and executed exactly what we wanted them to do. And we played really well and won the game. So that that is what can be hard, is making sure you prepare them enough for Saturday, but you don't want to overload at the same time. It's easy as a coach to think you got to cover a million different points because you're passionate about it and you feel a certain way, but you have to really make sure you break it down for the players in a simple enough format that they can hear it at 11 o'clock on a Saturday and go execute it at 3 o'clock, and it doesn't go in one ear and out the other.
Have you been able to take what you learned as a professional ice hockey player over to your collegiate coaching style?
Yeah. Honestly, I think I just try to treat our players how I would want to be treated, which is super corny and cliche, but it's just true. I think back, like when I was a player, the coaches that I felt like did a really good job of treating me fairly and treating me like a valuable asset to the team. Like I just try to emulate that. And on the flip side of that, like you can also think back to maybe coaches or people, even teammates, that didn't treat you fairly or didn't treat you well, and try not to do the same things that they did. So as far as like specific tangible things, like I try to I try to always treat our players the same way, whether we won or lost, and whether they played well or they played poorly. Because at the end of the day, like that player is a person before they're just a player on our team, and they're an important member of the culture. And if I'm their best friend when they play super well, and then I just completely ignore them when they don't play well, that doesn't feel good. And I don't think that's going to help them if they have a horrible game and I pretend like they don't exist. I don't think that's going to make them play better the next day. I got to try to talk to them and build them up so they can have a better game that next day. So that's something that for me, like I really try to do a lot of and make sure that I'm not um, ignoring guys or treating them differently, whether they're playing well or playing poorly, or if they're out of the lineup. Sometimes the guys that are out of the lineup are the ones that they're the toughest conversations to have. And they're not always fun, but they're the most important ones to have because they really do need that confidence building and that attention that maybe your top player or your starting goalie doesn't need at that moment.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've helped build from where Coach Norton laid down the culture?
Yeah, I think the culture that we try to create or try to sustain is one where the players, like I said, feel important and valued and like they have a specific role on this team and they can help us win by accomplishing X, Y, and Z things. And then really holding ourselves as players and coaches accountable and making sure that if we drop the ball in any of those areas that we're honest about that and that we're aware. So, if a player takes a penalty after the whistle and it's not, it's not necessary to do that ever when the play's not going on, then having that player understand like we can't do that and it doesn't help us win. And you need to understand without us even saying anything to you, you need to understand that that's not acceptable and not part of the culture that we're building or are a part of now. And on the same token, like there are certainly things that I did this year as a coach that weren't the best, that I made a mistake in, or that I could have done better. So I think it's important for me, like when I recognize those things or realize those things, to be honest with our players. I had a conversation with one of our players, who's a sophomore, about just like I had been I had been taking him off during face-offs and not really giving him a fair chance. And I had been doing it for a while, and I talked to him probably in February and was like, I shouldn't be doing that. Like I should give you an opportunity early in the game to win draws. And if you're not winning draws, then I'll take you off and put one of our better draw guys out there. But until you kind of prove that you're not on that day, I shouldn't be taking you off. So I think it's important to, like, for me, especially as an assistant who's younger and closer in age to the players, to like be honest with them and look at what I'm doing and other areas I can be better. And if there are, then be honest with the players about that and let them know like you guys are trying to get better every day and every month as a player, and so am I as a coach.
What has the recruitment process been like as an assistant coach going out and recruiting these up and coming prospects?
Yeah, recruiting is probably like the part of the job I enjoy the most. I think it's a lot of fun to try to identify players that can hopefully help your team win. Um, it is different at every level, I would say. So I can't speak to like what it's like at another school in our conference or obviously Division One. But here at Tufts, what can be difficult is you academically you can only recruit certain players that have either good enough grades or test scores to get into the school. So that limits your player pool a little bit. On the same token, what is nice about that is that the players are really interested in our school because they know it's a good education. So once you find players that are able to get in academically, um, the school is well known and the hockey program is well known as well. So those things really help some of the legwork as far as like generating interest in your program. There's a lot of interest in our program as it is. So that part is nice. And then the hard part is like when you do find players that have the grades to get in, like they can usually get into all the other schools in our conference too. So now you've identified a player with good grades, which is awesome, but they've got the other 9 schools in our conference, and there's a couple others outside of our conference too that are in that same discussion that now you're recruiting against. So that part is like, how can you differentiate yourself as a school? Once you found a player you like, how can you kind of, I don't want to say sell, a little bit of a selling, but how can you showcase your program and team as a great opportunity for him? And that's different for every player. If he's a defenseman, a forward, a goalie, if he's 19 versus 21, playing prep school versus juniors, there's a lot of different ways that we try to make sure we're showcasing our program to those players as best we can.
As an assistant coach, what is it like getting to see your players put on that powder blue Tufts jersey?
It's awesome. I mean, I know like in Division 3, you only get 25 games in a season, so I know how much it means for those guys to be able to play. And uh, I think it's something that our guys take a lot of pride in, being able to be in the lineup because it's hard. And yeah, no, it's super rewarding when you see a guy who's worked hard to earn a spot in the lineup and then get to play and hopefully plays well. So it's awesome.
What is it like, obviously, as a coach, seeing them get to go from being a collegiate athlete to then, once they graduate, get into the real world and go into corporate jobs?
Yeah, it's something that is really impressive. I am just a hockey coach, so to see them go on and do things that are, we only have one senior this year, but he's got a lot of really good opportunities in front of him as far as jobs or continuing his education in law school. So seeing them have, and almost all of our guys that are sophomores and juniors have internships lined up for the summer well in advance, like last fall. And it's really cool. I mean, they're at such a good school, and they're doing, for the most part, our guys do really well in the classroom. And so you have just a plethora of opportunities in front of you as far as internships, jobs, and then what you do from there or what path you go down is obviously up to them, but it's really cool to see them have so many options.
What has it been like, obviously, as an assistant coach, seeing them go on and if they do play professionally, play in the ECHL?
Yeah, so I have, like I said, we only have one senior here, so I haven't seen that here this year. But last year at Curry, we had a player who moved on and played professionally in the SPHL after his season ended. And before I was at Curry, we had quite a few alum who were then in the ECHL as well. So it's cool. Like one of the guys who plays in the ECHL from Curry, like just texted me last week about his season and stuff. So it's awesome like that to see guys get to move on and keep playing. I mean, it's really hard to do for a living and consistently year after year. And there's quite a few guys that have gone on to do it. So it's super rewarding for just like us as a program to be able to look at that. And Tufts has had players do this. Just obviously I've only been here 1 year, so I haven't seen it, but it's really rewarding to see guys be able to move on and continue to play.
What are some of your future plans as the assistant coach for Tufts?
Um, I think for us, we just want to keep getting better. We had a really good end to our season this year, going into playoffs, where we fought back from being out of the playoffs in ninth place to finishing in sixth place. So for us, like we want to keep continuing. We want to continue to get better and fight for home ice. You got to be in the top 4 of the conference to have home ice in the playoffs, and that's something that us as coaches really want to accomplish. Um, so for me, like obviously there's you want to win a championship and you want to play in the national tournament, but you got to take steps to get there. And for us, like the first step is earning that home ice in the playoffs. We finished 6th this year. Can we finish in the top 4 next year? And then from the top 4, like, hey, now you got home ice in the playoffs and you're in the discussion to win the championship or to be in the national tournament. But like I said, you got to start not start somewhere, but you got to start at a point where is a realistic jump from where you're at. So finishing in that 6th spot, I'd like to see us finish, top 4 or better next year.
What advice would you give those high school athletes that are looking to be playing college ice hockey?
That's a great question. I would say there's probably 3 things that are important, super important. One is do well in school, because it doesn't mean that you're going to go to Tufts or you're going to go to Harvard, but it means more schools are going to be able to look at you because you have good academics. So do well in school. 2, I would say if you can / enjoy playing other sports, do that. It's great to play hockey all year round. I did. I wasn't that good at other sports, and I also just loved hockey that much. But I think there's a lot to be said about players that play other sports. We have our captain plays in the lacrosse team. Actually, our captain and assistant captain both play on the lacrosse team here. We have one freshman who played, I think, baseball, football, and hockey all 4 years of high school. Like, there's not a lot of that these days. It's a lot of specializing once you get to high school and you play one sport all 4 years. I think there's so many lessons to be learned from playing other sports and skills to be gained. Like, sure, you're not holding a hockey stick for 12 months, but playing baseball or playing lacrosse or playing football, it's going to teach you how to do different things. I mean, playing football, you're always going to have limited time and space to make plays, whether you're a quarterback, a wide receiver, a safety, whatever it is. So learning how to make plays with less time and space, that's going to help you in hockey. Baseball, the hand-eye coordination, the pressure of being up to bat or being a pitcher or whatever it is, that pressure can help carry over to hockey and dealing with high pressure situations. So playing multiple sports, that can never hurt, in my opinion. So doing well in school, playing multiple sports, and then my last piece would be like, just be open-minded and inquisitive, because a lot of players, especially in high school or prep school, are like, I want to play Division 1, or I want to play, at whatever school. Like, there are a lot of schools out there and a lot of different paths you can take to get there. So it'd be great if every kid could play in the USHL and then play Division 1, but that's just not realistic. There's guys that are going to play in other leagues, and then maybe they'll still play Division 1 or they'll play Division 3. And being open-minded to the fact that everyone's path is different is super important, and being inquisitive. Like, if you're a high school junior or senior right now and you're looking at different opportunities in college, like, look at their roster and go check out, like, just University of Michigan's roster. Where did their players play? Did any of them play the high school you're at, or from a similar high school, or did most of them go play prep school or juniors or whatever it might be? And do that for all different levels. Do it for University of Michigan, one of the top Division 1 programs in the country, and then do it for other Division 1 programs, do it for Division 3 programs. I'd even say look at ACHA club programs, because that's a high level with a lot of good players in it too. And I think that'll just allow, if you're a high school athlete and you're doing that, it'll allow you to see the full picture of, like, these are the opportunities that are in front of me. And I know everyone wants to play Division 1, but it's just not always possible, at least not right out of high school. And being aware of that and understanding that, to me, is super important.
What advice would you give those players that are looking to play professionally in, let's say, the ECHL?
From college, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would say the first and foremost important thing to do, if you want to do that, is to help your team win, because coaches want winners. And when you're looking at playing professional hockey after college, um, there's nothing I think that a coach can say that's better than he helped our team win, or he helps our team win. And the individual accolades, like points and goals and all that, like, it does help and it does matter to a certain degree. But being on a winning team goes a long way, because winning teams, have done something right and are successful, and B, winning teams usually play more games because they go farther in the playoffs and they play against better teams. And I think there's a lot to be said about continuing to win and being a guy on a team that helped the team win. And like as a player, like it's something I wasn't able, we never, like I said, won the championship or had like a 20 win season when I was a player. So I can't say that I've done it as a player. I just think as a coach now, if I'm in professional hockey and I'm looking at where I want to pull a player from the Division 3 level, like I want to look at the programs that win a lot. And I want to see, okay, who are your seniors and what do they do to help you win so many games? That's what I would recommend.
What advice would you give those coaches that are looking to get into college ice hockey?
I would say sort of similar to what I say to players, like be inquisitive and be open-minded. There's a lot of different paths to college hockey, and it can never hurt to reach out. Like if someone reached out to me today via email to ask, could you give me some advice? Like I would get on a call with them every time. So I think there's a lot of coaches out there that would do that. So it never hurts to be inquisitive and reach out and see what kind of advice could you offer? How did you get to X school, or what did you do that helped you get to this position? Being inquisitive and being open-minded, like I said, with the players. I mean, I coached in juniors for a year and then went to college. There are some coaches that are in college now that were prep school coaches. There are some that were just high school, not prep school coaches. Some just coached U18 or U16, like travel AAA hockey. There's so many different paths, and there's honestly not a single one that's right or wrong. Some coaches, you can look at it this with head coaches too. Some head coaches in college were assistant coaches for a really long time in college before they got a head coaching job. A lot of other head coaches were head coaches in prep school or juniors before they got a head coaching job in college. So doesn't mean that one's better than the other. It just means there's a lot of different ways you can do it. So my advice would be super open-minded to the opportunities that you may have, and be inquisitive, reach out to people, try to get as many people that you can to talk to, because everyone has a different perspective. This is my perspective, but you can go ask an assistant in another school and they might have a totally different perspective. So talking to myself and that person is going to help you get a more well-rounded idea of what you could do to get into college coaching. So same thing as the players, be inquisitive and be open-minded.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the team at?
So our team's Instagram, I believe, is Tufts Hockey. And then I believe the Twitter is Tufts Hockey as well. I can text you after or email you after to make sure that's correct. And then I'm on Twitter and Instagram as well, just my name, Mikhall Bryan. So yeah, that's
Thank you again, Coach Mikhall Bryan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the Tufts assistant men's ice hockey coach.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Mikhall Bryan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you. You too. I really appreciate it.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.